rate of sea level rise occur over 5 years and then stabilize itself. Glaciers are, it's not like an ice cube melting on a hot sidewalk on a summer day. They just kind of go away gradually. They melt and then they stop, and then they melt and they stop, and then melt and they stop. So the dynamics of that is not fully understood. And that's leading part of the problem. And so we're looking at these nice smooth rising exponential curves, but in reality, if that happens, it's not going to be smooth. They're going to be jumps, fits and jumps. And so, can we survive a 2 or 3 meter rise, a 2 meter rise in sea level occurring over 50 years, and then have a stabilization? So I guess my larger point is that we still don't fully understand the science, okay? I mean, we right off the bat, we said the science is well understood, and it's no longer a question. There's still a lot about the science we don't understand.
Okay, good point.
Let me, in the end of the last ice age, carbon dioxide levels were 180 parts per million. At the beginning of the Industrial Revolution, this warming had built up to 280 parts per million, so an increase of 100. Sea level rose from minus 420 feet up to where it was at the beginning of the Industrial Revolution. And we're a little higher now, a foot or so. But now, because of the input of fossil fuel, burning fossil fuels, we've raised it from 280, not to 380, but 403 or 4 or something, over 100 parts more. And what would you expect to happen? Nothing? That's what I can only call arrogant ignorance. It is, we have really kicked the bucket over.
Okay, Holly Greeny.
Thank you for bringing all these things up. I think education is critical. But I'm thinking that probably what is going to impact how people build on the coast is going to be the economic viability of doing so. And we talked a little bit about the insurance and how maybe unattractive policies or no policies may be something in the future. I'm wondering if the insurance companies now are starting to take climate change implications into effect when they are starting to issue permits for things right now or policies right now. So it seems that that's going to be much more likely than a change in the Constitution or education is going to be the pocketbook.
And Holly and Kelly, don't you think that it would be the responsibility of communities to warn people? Because you understand what's coming of the risk of buying in low-lying areas or coastal areas that we may not be able to maintain renourishment for, to keep a beach and to keep your land safe. I mean, why aren't we doing that? The poor Iowa pig farmer that works his life up north and retires down here thinking he's getting an investment for his kids and his grandkids, and then he's duped, basically, because we know what's going on then. We don't know if it's going to be 4 feet, 6 feet, or 30 feet by the end of the century. We know possibly within his purchasing time, 30, 40 years, that he may not be able to do anything with that property, including live with it. I think that's a responsibility.
In about a month, we'll be in Toms River, New Jersey. They're going to spend approximately, we're told, $2 billion to reconstruct the events of Sandy. Insurance companies no longer are issuing municipal insurance for fire stations, water systems, because they do not believe that the climate change program available in that community meets any rational standard. Is part of the answer.
And that's where
we should deal with some great questions in the audience. We'll try to condense them quickly because of time. We have about half an hour left. And I lost the question. Wait a minute. Why do you insist that all, capital ALL, global warming is due to human burning of fossil fuels? Wouldn't it be easier to get buy-in if some natural phenomena were also responsible? People hate to be blamed, hate to be guilty, and would help nature if they could. Would somebody like to identify themselves here with this lady behind?
What was that last part of the sentence?
People would like to help nature if they felt they could. This lady behind.
Hello. Yeah, unfortunately, if you put in all the natural processes through the last century or so they would have our climate going like this. It is only when you add in the excess greenhouse gases from the burning of fossil fuels that you see the warming that has occurred. So, yeah, I think most of us wake up every day saying maybe something real has happened that shows that we were on the wrong track, or something is going to offset this. It's not happening. It's not correct. Since all the climate scientists say that since about 1950, we have been controlling climate. It's as simple as that. You will see El Nino years where the wind changes, the rainfall patterns change. There was a period in, what was it, 2009, when the ocean level started to drop a few millimeters. And the deniers said, oh, it's over. Oh no, there were big rains in the Amazon, in Australia, and a few other places, and water was transferred from the ocean to the land. It's run back. So we see this little blip in the sea level rise, and now it's back and on course. And there's also the denier approach that, well, our atmosphere stopped warming for a decade. Now, as I showed you in the first slide, it's a mixture of the whole Earth, the atmosphere and the ocean. And sometimes a lot of heat is being taken up by the ocean, and other times it's accumulating in the atmosphere. One big system. There was no slope.
A couple of questions I can combine. What impacts do you see on surface water and groundwater contamination?
What about it?
From sea rise?
Yeah, what Southeast Florida did is we drained the Everglades with these big canals, and then we found that in the dry season, salt water was getting in. So what we did is we put barriers there, and so we controlled water level. You have to keep about 1.5 feet above mean sea level to prevent saltwater intrusion. And as sea level rises, we're within 8 inches of having 65% of our water control structures fail, meaning either we're going to start flooding out communities to maintain that 1.5 difference, or we're going to keep the water levels there and have fresh water levels there and have saltwater intrusions. With 2 feet of sea level rise, Southeast Florida will have no fresh water. We will be borrowing from you.
Whose question was that? I forgot to ask.
Pollution. Can I just add a pollution?
We're over here. Yes.
Can I just add a pollution thing?
Sure.
One of my biggest concerns, we talk about ourselves and like what we've been doing, we forget as this land is inundated, there are so many dumps and industrial waste sites that will be this ocean. And we cannot afford to leave a polluted shallow marine environment for our grandchildren. That should be front and center in our responsibility to future generations.
How important do you find the commercial communities in Florida who rely on tourism to be engaged in this conversation? Whose question was that? Somebody's?
Well, they are, in Miami Beach, they are the tourists. It's the reverse. It's the tourists that are letting them put out their $400 million short-term fixes. So I have a poster a kid at Broward Community College made for a Sierra Club talk I gave, and it has a snorkeler down there. You can see his boat up above, and there's a nice house out in West Kendall he's snorkeling for. So I think we'll probably have, it will be a new kind of tourism somewhere in our future.
Great time to get in early on that. And finally, are there any is the geological makeup of Pinellas County particularly relevant to any of the options you see for addressing sea rise?
Go ahead. You know about Pinellas? Al can probably answer that.
Okay.
I mean, Pinellas County, like all of Florida, is low, topographically low, so there's going to be flooding. And you can just do the bathtub rain trick. That's the first order. Okay, sea level comes up 6 feet. Where's the 6 foot topographic line? That's where the ocean's going to be, or the shoreline will be in X number of years, something like that. And so that'll occur here. The barrier islands are certainly going to be affected. The mangrove seagrasses, perhaps not to the significant degree in South Florida. We're a little bit more elevated in certain places. You can look at a wonderful map that the USGS has put out called the Merged Terrain Topographic Bathymetric Map that shows that St. Petersburg was an island 125,000 years ago when sea level was 6 meters higher. Northern Pinellas County was an island when sea level was 6 meters higher 125,000 years ago. So there are parts of Pinellas County that are significantly elevated.
Okay, we now are depressed. So we have 15 minutes left. We go over here and pick up some people who are extremely patient. But it would really be helpful, I think, if we start going back to what you're going to do about it. I think we got the message as a problem. Juliana, sorry, my problem. Yeah.
Oh, there we go.
There you go.
Okay, so one of my greatest concerns too is saltwater intrusion into our freshwater resources. We already have a great burden on our local aquifers here, and we've been experiencing some concerns about that. As your paper suggests we relocate citizens, how do you feel we could implement other policy suggestions to make sure that we can sustainably supply them with drinking water once we do?
Drinking water is going to be an absolutely huge problem, because as we relocate from sort of the spread out margins of Florida inland, we're going to be concentrating people in industry. We're probably going to be trying to go to more intensive agriculture, and we're going to have increased water demand. You know, I'm sorry, I don't know too much about how you manage your water here, but in South Florida, Broward and Miami-Dade County, we get it out of the superficial aquifer, we use it, and we throw it away. We do no recycling. Naples apparently does 94, 96% recycling. And we're now under court order to stop throwing it away. We do it by depot injection or put it out on the other side of the reef out on the Straits of Florida. And that's no longer acceptable. So, and our governments are having a great time, a great difficulty in realizing the expense involved in cleaning water and reusing water. But it's like with everything else. We could reduce our energy footprint if we just do conservation. We could reduce our water use if we would just do real recycling. I don't know how much we do. And we should be much more careful about pollution. But we're going to be concentrating. Unless you go to North Carolina, then they're going to be concentrating. So I don't know if that's a good answer.
Sure, right?
I had highlighted in your paper the statement that to divert public money from hard or soft shore protection measures into funds to be used for relocation assistance, cleaning low-lying polluted lands, and removing storm damage development and infrastructure. Last week we had an event in St. Petersburg, and I got really excited about the idea with some other folks to start costing out the idea of doing nothing and being able to use that to justify doing something. And right now in our community, and I think doing something, there's a lot of talk about doing things at the shoreline and for the seawalls. And so by this statement, would you agree that you're sort of positing that doing something at the shoreline and at the seawalls should actually be included in the formula of doing nothing?
There are a lot of things that have looked at the economics of the future, and if there's many things you can do that will encourage further development, and in the short run that might be nice.